You want to know a fragrance accord that I just cannot get enough of lately? It is the accord note of coffee. For some reason, I am just craving it lately in this kind of spring weather where it's a little bit cool in the mornings and a little bit warmer in the afternoons, but there's something so comforting about just smelling like that nice warm cup of joe in the morning. I actually do own quite a bit of coffee fragrances, and some of them are definitely hit or miss, and these two fragrances by Fragrance World, oh boy, these are in a league of their own, and we're gonna talk about them today. So stick around, make yourself comfortable, and let's jump right in. How's it going, everyone? It's Eli with Common Sense. Thank you so much for joining me. And today we're looking at two fragrances from the house of Fragrance World. Now, these are from their coffee collection. We're taking a look at Irish coffee and also Kopi Luwak. So the Kopi Luwak I have been really looking forward to reviewing because it's the weirdest one out there, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. The first fragrance we're gonna look at is Irish coffee. Both of these fragrances, as well as the other ones from their coffee collection, are going to be original DNAs. They're original creations, not clones of anything. This is really a chance for the brand as a whole to shine and show what they can do creatively, and I am all for it. But again, this one is Irish coffee, and the box itself is really high quality. It's got this really interesting texture along the side. It almost feels like a canvas, and it reminds me a lot of Tom Ford. It looks very similar to that, and it has a more expensive feel to it. So when you unbox it, whoo, look at that bottle. So all of these are going to be eau de parfum concentrations and 100 ml. So you get 3.4 ounces of liquid gold. And man, I gotta say, these bottles look absolutely stunning. I kind of like the look of the white plastic on the bottom. It reminds me a little bit of the old school kind of Koros bottles or the Balenciaga Porom. It kind of reminds me of that. You also have this little gold trim around the side that doesn't look too terrible. But this is a hefty bottle and kind of reminds me of the Electimus bottles, especially with that kind of circular plaque. Atomizer check. A nice blast of fragrance, a nice even puff. That's satisfying. So immediately when you spray this fragrance, you are going to be getting an Irish coffee creamer vibe. That's exactly what I get when I smell this. And it reminds me a lot of the purple Coffee Mate Italian creamers that you'll get from Coffee Mate. So in the purple bottles with the little red cap, that's exactly what I get when I smell this. Get a nice rich coffee with a little bit of some green notes in there, but really you get a nice bit of brand, you get some rum, and you also get some whiskeys. So it's gonna be a nice rich, dark, and sweet booziness combined with that nice creamy lactonic coffee. It's also got quite a bit of warmth in there from the rose, and there's also some Davana and some other really interesting notes in here. There's some patchouli. It's got some really sweet notes like caramel and vanilla, and really they do blend quite nicely here, and I'm pretty shocked at how evenly blended everything smells together, and it really is a high quality fragrance from a clone brand. So it's really cool to see them making something very original. Yeah, there's also a nice vanillic booziness to it, especially from the benzoin and the vanilla, but man, does that smell very boozy, and it's just very inviting. And so I imagine that you'd want to wear this on maybe some spring or winter evenings, especially, you know, because it's a little bit heavier. It can be a little bit cloying if you wear this in the super hot weather, but I think anybody can pull this one off, especially because you do have some more of those masculine kind of rum and whiskey notes, but you also have some rose and some other florals in here. So as this sort of dries down, it actually takes on a little bit more of a white, creamy, and lactonic quality. It's really, really interesting. That real loud sweetness in the opening definitely does calm down, and you get more of a musky, a little bit animalistic vibe in the base. So you have some cypriol, you also have some musks in there, so it definitely smells a tiny bit animalistic in the dry down. Like just a hint. It's also worth noting that there is quite a bit of sandalwood in this, especially in the dry down, because it smells a little bit woody, it's a little bit soft, and it definitely has a little bit of that incense smell, just a tiny little bit, but the sandalwood definitely comes out as it dries down. Again, I think if you want a nice bit of booze to your coffee and your kind of creamy lactonic notes, I think this is going to be a perfect pick, especially for this cooler weather. Longevity wise, you're looking at around 8 to 9 hours, and it performed really good for the first 3 to 4 hours with a nice scent bubble around you. I gotta give this one a good 9 out of 10. This stuff really is amazing, and I believe you can pick it up for about $35 to $40. So for $40 for 100 ml eau de parfum concentration that smells like boozy, delicious coffee, that is a no-brainer. They are really kicking it off strong with Irish coffee. That smells so good. And lastly, my favorite fragrance out of these two, this is Fragrance World's Kopi Luwak. So for those who don't know, Kopi Luwak is basically a process where these civet cats in Asia will eat these little cherries, and they have the pits in there. Once it passes through their body, it kind of digests, and you're literally left with these kind of coffee bean seeds that are expelled from the cat. Those are collected, harvested, and dried out, and you're left with basically cat poo coffee. And it is considered a delicacy and one of the most expensive coffees that you can get. So definitely not for everyone, but when I saw that they made a fragrance based off of that, you bet my curiosity peaked. So let's see if this fragrance is anything similar to cat poo coffee. As you can see, you got the little civet cat on there that's doing his business. Atomizer check. Same thing, really strong puff of fragrance. And does this smell like cat shit coffee? It does not. It smells like the best gourmand coffee I have ever smelled. Because Kopi Luwak is created from the digested cherries, it has a nice candied cherry note in the opening, and it smells almost like a chocolate covered cherry. So it smells really gourmand and it is very inviting. You get a nice roasted, earthy coffee note that smells a little bit smoky, so it smells like jet black espresso. It smells so irresistible and so good. Like that smell in the air that gets released when you freshly grind the coffee beans. It smells just like that. It's so good. So while the last one was more of a creamy, sweet version of coffee, you know, like you just put a ton of creamer in your coffee, this is not that. This is a refined, expensive smelling coffee. So of course in the opening you do have that coffee note, but it also has some rose in the middle, and it has a base of oud, cistus, and patchouli. So it's gonna smell a little bit more Middle Eastern, just a hint of it. So the rose in this one isn't done too overly heavy as some might feel in the Montal Ristretto Intense Cafe. This one definitely has that coffee, kind of nutty roasted coffee smell, but it does have quite a bit of rose, and it leans a little bit more feminine. So where that one was more of a rose dominant fragrance, almost like a Delina with coffee, this one is going to be way more coffee with a touch of rose and oud. It's not going to be real milky, it's just going to be a dark coffee with a touch of that sweetness from the opening. So for those of you wondering if there's any animalistic or fecal notes in this, you're not going to get any of that. It's just going to be a nice earthy, well-bodied cup of black coffee with a little bit of that cherry vibe. That is so good. But in the base, it does have a little bit more of that rose. It comes out a little bit more, but ultimately you still have that nice, rich espresso dark cup of coffee with a touch of that sweetness. So out of all the coffee fragrances I own, this one is going to be my favorite. I have been wearing it like crazy. I just pick it up, I smell it, I want to put it on myself in the car. This one's also about the same as the last one. Again, 8 to 9 hours of longevity, going real strong. Yeah, this one's going to be a 10 out of 10 in my book. And that one is Kopi Luwak by Fragrance World. So there you have it, 2 Fragrance World coffee fragrances from the coffee collection. So these 2 alone have definitely piqued my interest, and I am definitely interested in trying the rest of the coffee collection. These 2 are definitely going to cover that spectrum of coffee. So if you are a black jet coffee lover, just plain, I think you're gonna really like the Kopi Luwak. And if you like maybe a little bit more of sweetness, some creamer in your coffee, you're more of a Starbucks person, then I think you're gonna like the Irish coffee. Can't believe I just said Starbucks. But Irish coffee does have some attitude. It's got some booziness to it, but I think it's not overly done, and I think you can still wear this in the public without people just kind of batting an eye and thinking, who just stumbled out of the bar and tried to sober up with some coffee, they spilled it all over their shirt. I don't think they're gonna get that. And also, I've tried layering these 2 on skin and on my clothes, and they smell very nice together. They complement each other quite nicely because you have that sweetness, the creaminess combined with the nice nutty, earthy coffee, and you really just have a nice cloud of espresso and coffee around you. So you really can't lose with either of these. So that does it for today. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Please let me know if you've tried any of these coffee fragrances or some of the other ones that I haven't covered. Let me know if there's any that I should pick up, because I just love these 2 and I would love to pick up some more from this house. Thank you so much for watching. You guys stay safe out there. I'm Eli with Common Sense, and until the next time, bye-bye. Whereas this one leans, I just dropped it. Guys, don't put back your fragrance bottles. There we go. My wrist. drink smells good now, though.